kind of funny, Dylan, because I had an opportunity to go down that path. Well, everybody does. Everybody has an opportunity to go down the wrong path. Um, and I was fortunate enough to have good guidance. And my mom had a powerful right hand. So I just I didn't want to be a good kid, and I didn't try to be a good, or I didn't want to be a bad kid, and I didn't try to be a bad kid. So when I saw other people doing something wrong, naturally I decided to go the opposite direction. And that's not to sound perfect, of course, but I know my intentions are good, and I know um, the school system needs leaders. Um, our youth definitely need leaders, and so I'm going to do my part. No, Dylan, it was not the temptation of an interracial '80s street gang. I didn't have those temptations. I mean, they were there. I mean, I could have joined the breakdancing, I could have joined the breakdancing popping scene, but no, I chose not to. Oh, the good old '80s, though. You laugh, but the '80s was amazing, Dylan. The '80s was great. The music was great. The time was great. Um, it was just a great era, in my opinion, especially the music. '80s music is probably what kept me out of trouble. I would just sit in my room and draw, listening to '80s songs at night, and go outside and play with my friends during the day. And it was just a good time. It was just a feel good time. I mean, when I look back on it, on how much we used to play and how we used to play superheroes and how we used to make up games like Disc of Tron and how we used to create superheroes and superhero teams and we would battle other superhero teams in the neighborhood. It was just a great, fun time. And you just don't see much of that anymore, unfortunately. You just don't see stuff like that. Um, Going outside to play, I mean, it was different back then. I mean, of course, there were people who played yard football and people who played baseball at the park and stuff like that. But me and my friends, we were just a little bit more inventive, I guess you'd say. And so we would create superheroes, and I would draw the superheroes and for everybody, and we would perform these tasks to get on the superhero teams and just thinking back on those days, it was a lot of fun. Let's see. Dylan says everything went downhill after 9/11. I remember playing outside in the late 90s. But after that, nobody let their kids go outside. Even Dylan in the late 90s wasn't anything like the 80s. I was in California in the 90s. So, through most of the 90s anyway. From the beginning to mid 90s, I was in California. And yeah, people didn't really go outside much. But of course, California is different. So I can't really compare that to here. But the 80s, I'm telling you, it was so cool to be able to stay out until the street lights came on. And they didn't really tell you that. I mean, my parents didn't really say, "Hey, when you see those street lights come on, you come inside." It's just that you knew when it was getting dark, it was time to go home. I mean, you could stay out until it was barely any light, but you knew it was when it was time to come home. And if you didn't know, you could hear your parents calling from up the street. It's just a different time, different fun time. I miss those days though. It was just a couple months ago, but years ago, years and years ago. But yeah, you can't really relate to it unless you go through it. That's the sad part. And I wish phones were a big thing back then and video and all that stuff. And I wish it was immortalized on phones like everything is today. Riding the bikes down the street full speed, barefoot, stuff like that. Venturing through the woods and making forts and clubhouses and um, climbing trees. Yeah, video kills a radio star. But, it didn't kill creativity, that's for sure. Not back then, anyway. But yeah, I am going to get on here a little bit later. I'm going to find out where my students are, um, and hopefully make sure they're okay. But I'll be back on later, guys. So if you want to see what new comments came in this week, by all means, stay tuned. Until then, stay safe, stay awesome. And this is Sensei from Game Over, and I'm out.